Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad you stopped by today because today we are going to be doing another Sphynx piece. Our last one was an alien Sphynx, and this time around I want to do a dragon Sphynx. I thought this would be really fun to do. Also, I dyed my hair. I hope you guys like it. I may have also dyed my scalp, but that was not planned. Anyways, let's get started on today's project. Okay, so for this piece, I want to kind of get a very similar face from last time I made my Sphynx. So I'm going to do the same thing where I have the three eyes. I just really like how that looks. But we're going to kind of change up everything, and I want to make the rest of the face look a little bit softer. Now, for references, because I liked how my previous sculpture came out, I'm going to use a little bit of that to reference, but I'm also going to find some other Sphynx cat faces to look at to make sure, because I want it, again, to look a little bit more like that this time around. Now, last time I did this with the third eye in the middle, it was kind of an afterthought after I sculpted and baked the face, so I had to carve away some space for it to fit. This time I'm going to plan ahead, since I know I want to do it, and leave the extra space so I don't have to carve it away later. So the snout will look a little bit thinner and longer for now. So I'm going to use my tools and lay out the basic shape of the nose, make sure I figure out where the nostrils should go and everything, and then I'm going to add some clay to figure out where the opening of the mouth is going to be. I'm actually going to be using the extra clay to make the bottom jaw. It felt like he needed more of a chin, so that's why I'm doing it this way. Normally I'll use it to add more of an upper lip, but I don't want the lips to stick out that much. So I'm going to lay out the clay for the bottom jaw, blend it in, and then start refining the shape of where the mouth would open up to. Then I can start adding a little bit of texture around the cheeks. Now, as I was working, I kind of wanted to add some horns, so I kind of dug through a bunch of extra clay pieces. Every now and again, I make extra stuff that I either will mold or save for other projects just because I wanted to try making something. And these were just some extra really short horns that I made. I was gonna mold these, but just completely forgot. So we're just going to add them to the top of the head. I thought it would look really cute, just have some really tiny little horns right there. After that, I'm just going to add a little bit of texture over the rest of the face, and then I'm going to put our clay head in the oven for about 45 minutes at 275 Fahrenheit. Once it's out and cooled, I can pop out those glass pieces and replace them with the actual eyes that we want to use. So I've got these pink ones that I wanted to use, and I'm just going to lay them out on the face. For now, I'm just going to do the two main eyes, and I'm going to start adding clay around them. So I'm going to add the clay for the bottom eyelid and kind of cheekbones first. I find this just easier. You may prefer to do it the other way around, but I just like starting with the bottom of the eye and then moving my way up. Now for the expression, I want it to kind of be a little neutral, but I want to have a touch of anger, just a tiny, tiny touch. I thought it would look cute on the face. So I'm just going to kind of use the upper eyelids to adjust the expression. And again, I don't want to add too much anger. He's not gonna like attack you or anything. He's just like a little like grumpy. Once I'm happy with the main eyes, I'm going to attach the third eye in the middle, and then I'm going to start framing around that and finishing up the shape of the face. I'm going to sculpt in some wrinkles here and there, and then also add a texture to it. Now for the feet, this time around I'm going to make the feet a little bit larger, but I think I'll still keep with the really long, delicate legs that I did with the previous Sphynx piece. Now I want to give him really long, thin claws, and that's kind of delicate, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make them ahead of time before starting the feet, and I'm going to use my epoxy sculpt clay. So I've got it measured out so that all of the claws will be roughly the same. So I've got individual little tiny pieces of clay, and I'm going to make a little cone by rolling out a little bit more on the tip and then wrapping it around a wooden dowel just lightly, and then I'm going to use my fingers to kind of adjust the shape of them and then just pop them off of the wooden dowel and set them aside. So we're going to let these dry. They're probably going to take about 24 hours before they're safe to completely work with. Plus, I'm going to be baking them, and I want to make sure they're completely cured when I bake them. And then for starting the feet, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a piece of wire. I've got it doubled up, and I also have a thinner gauge wrapping around it. This will help the clay kind of hold onto it. And then for the toes, adding them to the wire frame, very similar to the claws, I've got everything kind of already rolled out and kind of tapered, and I'm just going to start adding the pieces of clay for each toe to the foot. And then I'll take another piece of clay for the padding of the bottom of the foot and add that. Then I can blend all of this together. After that, I'm going to take some more clay and I'm going to start building up the wire, just adding more leg to the wire. So I'm just going to keep covering that up. I don't want to go too tall, but I want to have enough where it's easy to connect to the body. And then for the front feet, these are going to have thumbs, so I've got extra claws for this, and I'm just going to add that tiny little toe and push my claw into place to finish up the front feet. Now because our Sphynx is a hairless cat, I don't really plan on furring the clay pieces, so to kind of hide the seams, especially around the little ankles, I figured it'd be cute to add some bracelets to them. So I'm gonna take some strips of clay and just kind of decorate the feet and add some jewelry to them. I'm going to do it to all four of them, but the front ones, I'm going to add some extra ones and then decorate them with some metal pieces to kind of make them look a little bit more gothic. And then once I'm happy with how all four of the feet look, I'm going to do a bake. So I'm going to get everything in the oven and I'm going to bake them for probably roughly about 45 minutes at 275 Fahrenheit. Kind of what we did with the head. Okay, so now we can start on painting everything. And I'm actually going to start off by primering the clay pieces the color that I want in all the cracks between the wrinkles. So for this, I kind of want more of a purplish pink muted color. So I'm going to mix that up and get everything completely painted. Once that's dried, I can add the actual color that we're going to be using for the body, which is going to be a really kind of light khaki color, trying to make it look as close to a hairless cat as possible. This color was very difficult for me to mix up, but I think I got really close to the color of the fabric. So I'm just lightly going over everything so I don't cover up that pink completely in the cracks and crevices. And I'm going to add more in different spots and kind of make sure it's lighter in other spots. Once I have the basic color laid out on all of the clay pieces, I'm going to go in and start adding more detail. So let's start with the face first, and what I'm going to be doing is adding more pinks and purples to kind of blend the purple that's in the cracks into the khaki color of the skin. Also just kind of brightening up certain areas and then adding more darker colors to deeper cracks. I'm then going to start working on painting the nose and the horns. So I want the nose to kind of be a blend of the purple and pinks, and then the horns, I want the same kind of light pastel-y look, but I'm going to make it look more grayish blue. I figured this would help them stand out just a little bit. Once I have all the painting done for the face, I just need to let everything dry and then I can peel away the excess paint that got on our glass eyes. So I'm going to clean those up and then we'll move to finishing the feet. So after cleaning the glass eyes, I realized that the left eye is not reflecting the same as the other two eyes. I'm not exactly sure what happened, but to try and make it look like a happy little accident, I decided to paint on some really pale scars over that eye. That way it kind of looks intentional. I figured that'd be a lot easier than remaking the face completely because the eye was a little bit off. Now the next thing that I need to do on the feet is add a little bit of pink around where the bracelets are to make a shadow. So I'm going to add that and then just water it down a little bit to blend it in and soften it. I'm going to do the same thing to the bottoms of the toes just to add a little bit more color to the pads. So again, I'm going to use that pink and I'm going to use some water to kind of blend it in and soften everything. I really don't want any harsh straight lines on this piece. For all the bracelets around the feet, I'm going to be painting them black. The jewelry I want to have on the darker, more contrasty side. So the bracelets are going to be black, and later on I'm going to be adding more of a gothic necklace to the piece. So I'm going to do that, and then we're going to move on to painting the claws, which I think will just be kind of a muted purple to help them stand out a bit. Once I have all the painting done, I just need to let it dry, and just like cleaning the glass eyes, I'm going to be cleaning those metal decorative pieces on the front feet. Now that our clay pieces are done, we can start on the sewing. So the pattern is basically the same pattern as my alien Sphynx. I just made some alterations, mainly shortening the body because we're not going to have the extra legs, and then making the spikes more prominent on the back and adding a couple to the back of the neck. And of course I added wings to the piece, so I've got those as well, and I ended up adding a different decoration to the tip of the tail. So I'm going to start by taking the sides of the body, and I'm going to pin these together so we can sew down the back of the creature where all those spikes are. I figured it'd be easier to do this with the sewing machine. So I'm going to do that first. And then I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut a certain spot where we're going to connect the inner part of the leg and where the wings are going to go. So I'm going to follow this line, cut that, and separate the fabric. Then I can take the inside piece for the thigh and I can sew the front of it in place. And then I'm going to take the fabric pieces for the lower part of the back legs. Each one has a left and a right, and I'm just going to sew down the front of them, and then we can attach this to the back legs that are connected to the body already. For the front legs, I'm going to mark out where we're going to connect them, and I'm going to make some little slits so we can sew them in place. For the fabric, we have an inside piece and an outside piece, and I'm going to sew down the front just like we did with the lower back leg pieces. Then we can take the fabric and we can attach it to the body. I'm not going to go over the shoulder blade section yet. I'm going to wait until we have the piece more put together. And then for the end of the tail, I have a top and bottom. I've got the fabric pinned together. We're going to sew around it. Now, because of how thin the tail is, I am going to cut a little hole in the thicker end section so it's easier for us to flip this right side out and stuff it. Plus, I might add some extra spikes to this. And then for the wings, the back side of the wing is going to be our khaki color, but I want the underside to be pink. So I'm going to pin these together and go all the way around, flip it right side out, and then I'm going to sketch out with my fabric markers carefully where I want to sew all the little finger pieces to separate them and add the wire frame. I'm doing this a little differently because I don't have any more tearaway backing, and I figured this will just add a little extra shadow to where I have the sewing. I just got to make sure I follow the lines really carefully. After I have all those sewn into place, I'm going to be stuffing the fingers of the wings first and then running my wires in place. So I'm just going to add wires to the first two fingers, the longer ones. I won't add one to that third one at the bottom because it's just not really necessary. And then once I have the wires in place, I can continue stuffing the rest of the arm of the wing. Now when I was making all the clay pieces, I made a few extra spikes here and there in case I wanted to throw them onto the body in different spots, and I think I'm going to add a few to the very end of the wings, just kind of where the shoulder would be. So I'm just going to cut some little holes for that and then glue them in place where they stick out of the fabric. And then for the fabric for the ears, the outer section of the ear is going to be the khaki, and then the inside is going to be the pink that we used on the wings. So I'm going to do the same thing that we did with the wings. I'm just going to pin these together, sew around, and flip right side out. Okay, so we have all the different parts of our doll ready to assemble. So I have a wire frame and we're going to start putting everything on this. So the first thing we need to do is connect the wire frame that is inside of the wings to the body wire frame. So I'm going to take my lower gauge wire, this is usually a 20 gauge, and I'm going to start wrapping these two wire frames together. Next, we can take the fabric for the body and we can drape it over the wire frame. So I'm just going to have to run the wings through the holes for the wings, and same thing with the wires for the legs, they'll go through the holes for them. Once I have the fabric draped over the wire frame, I'm then going to sew the wings in place on the fabric. So I'm just going to connect the fabric around the base of the wings, closing everything up. After that, we're going to take our clay head and we're going to glue it to the wire for the neck. While I'm doing this, I'm also gluing into place some extra wires, that way we can connect the ears. The ears are just so long and stuff, they need a supporting wire, plus this helps make them poseable. So I'm going to get that connected, and then I can take the fabric for the neck and start gluing it around the base of the head. When we get to the underside of the head, I'm going to take the strip of fabric for the chest and neck and belly. It's just one piece of fabric that goes to the bottom of the thing, and then we're just going to glue that at the base of the head. I'm going to give my glue a little bit of time to dry, and then I can start stuffing and closing up the body. So I'm just going to sew down both sides, connecting the sides of the body to the belly piece. Now when I got to the back legs, I realized it's probably best to start on the legs and then continue going down. So I'm going to start on the front legs now. I'm going to get the fabric for the shoulder blades sewn into place. I'm going to mark out where that's going to go using one of my fabric markers, kind of like what we did with the wings, and just kind of follow the line that I draw. Once I have that in place, I can then take the clay pieces for the feet and connect them to the wire frame. I'll glue the fabric around the bases of those, let it dry, and then we can continue stuffing and closing up these legs. Once I get done with the front legs, I'm going to do the exact same thing to the back legs, and then we can continue sewing down the rest of the tail and stuffing the body. I decided that it was going to be easier if I just cut open the rest of the tail so I could stuff and close it instead of stuffing and then running the wire through, because sometimes it is too thin and you end up moving the stuffing by putting the wire through it. So I'm just going to attach that, and I'm going to continue stuffing and closing it up, and I'm also going to be adding a few spikes going along the length of the tail. Now, once I got the body put together, I realized that for a Sphynx, I kind of wanted to add some of those wrinkles they get. So I made a bunch of strips of fabric. I basically just folded fabric over, sewed it with my sewing machine and made strips of it, flipped it right side out and tapered the end, and I'm just going to sew these along the body in different spots that I think would wrinkle up. After that, I'm finally going to add our ears. So I'm going to run them over the wires for them, and then I'm going to sew them in place on the fabric that's going around the base of the head. I'm then going to attach the little plush spikes that I made, the little extra ones, just kind of framing the face and covering up the ears a little bit. I'm going to get those in position, and then the last thing we need to do is make their necklace. So for this, I actually had a bunch of really old like costume jewelry and stuff, and some of it was a little gothic. I replaced one of the gems with a pink gem so it would go with the other colors, and then I just added some like pink white lace to go underneath it. I used a few beads here and there, and I also glued some gems in place to decorate it even more. Okay guys, and here is my Sphynx dragon. I had so much fun with this project. Ever since I made the alien one, I've been wanting to do another piece, just a different theme, and I'm really glad with how this one came out. Now, if anyone is interested in buying this piece, I'm going to have it up for sale on my website. The links are down in the description, along with a bunch of different links to art supplies. So if you're interested in trying to make your own art doll and you just don't know what to get, these are what I usually use for my pieces. Now, these are affiliated links, so if you do buy anything through them, it does help support the channel. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!